You've kind of been a builder across stablecoins, NFTs, and now on-chain banking. What is the kind of common thread that pulls you together?
The last 20 years, starting out in the advent of the internet, and really that was starting my professional career in one of the first ever online advertising companies. So what that really was, that was making media programmable. And then it evolved and assets become programmable. And then money becomes programmable. And the next step is that banking becomes programmable. It means that those things are highly customizable to the individual. But now we have the technology to reach everyone in the world with a smartphone in their pocket. So why haven't we yet? The big unlock is for people in underdeveloped nations, the underbanked. They have access to all the information in the world via the internet. Why don't they have access to all the financial services in the world? Well, they do now.
Hi, Reeve. So could you just start by giving us a little bit of background about you and what you do?
Sure. Well, first, it's great to be here. Happy to always spread the word and spread the love about the technology behind crypto and where it's going. Yes, my name's Reeve Collins. I've been in the space since the very beginning. I created Tether. I was the co-founder and CEO and brought the stablecoin to market. That we had the concept in 2013. After that, really rolled out the first ever platform for NFTs. Prior to the word NFT, we invented really the concept of a highly programmable digital good and individual ownership of a digital token. Created a big platform called Block V, rolled into smart media, which then applied that infrastructure, that NFT protocol for large brands and enterprises to do mainly marketing and loyalty and rewards and ticketing. And that's really actually, even after all these years, is finally starting to take off with the big resurgence of RWAs. And most recently, I've brought two new companies to market right now that I'm really focused on. STBL, which is a stablecoin 2.0. It's the evolution of stablecoin 1.0 of Tether and Circle. And it's the evolution because it really upgrades what stablecoins can offer the consumer. And WeFi, WeFi.co. So WeFi is really an exciting piece of the puzzle. We've tokenized the dollar, we've tokenized ownership of digital objects, and now we're actually upgrading the rails themselves with WeFi. So now the whole world can be connected to financial infrastructure. WeFi is that financial infrastructure. It's a DO bank, the bank of the future. So that's what I've been working on. That's kind of the arc these past 10 years, and I'm really excited for where the industry's at today.
So as you just explained, you've kind of been a builder across stablecoins, NFTs, and now on-chain banking. What is the kind of common thread that pulls you together for all of these spaces? And what drew you to WeFi specifically?
Well, really, the last 20 years, starting out in the advent of the internet, and really that was starting my professional career in one of the first ever online advertising companies. So what that really was, that was making media programmable. And then it evolved and assets become programmable, and then money becomes programmable. And the next step is that banking becomes programmable. And what does programmable mean in this arc? It means that those things are highly customizable to the individual. Advertising, very customizable. Assets, now these with NFTs and RWAs, you can really highly customize the value and where it goes. Same with money. Especially stablecoin 2.0, you customize where the yield goes. And now with banking becomes customizable to the individual. In the past, banks was limited to people in much more developed nations. But now we have the technology to reach everyone in the world with a smartphone in their pocket. So why haven't we yet? And that's that gap that WeFi is trying to fill, creating the DO bank, which is a decentralized on-chain bank, providing that infrastructure for regulated banks to start offering this type of service to everybody.
So how would you explain WeFi's role to someone who uses traditional banking every day but may have never touched crypto before?
So it depends. Like WeFi is more focused on ensuring that people have easy access to what blockchain has to offer. So it's really blockchain-based rails, meaning you can now send money in 3 seconds. Why does it take 1 to 3 days? Right? So even in very developed nations, it still takes a long time. Why hasn't that been upgraded yet? So if you're in a developed nation, you might still use your same bank, but they're going to use a protocol like WeFi, or ideally WeFi in itself, because WeChain enables regulated financial institutions to easily and seamlessly integrate with blockchain-based transactions. But the big unlock is for people in underdeveloped nations, the underbanked. They now have the ability to have high quality financial services. They have a smartphone. They have access to all the information in the world via the internet. Why don't they have access to all the financial services in the world? Well, they do now. That's the final piece that WeFi is solving.
And what does that product actually look like for someone, say, in Latin America who has never had a bank account but does have a smartphone?
It's going to be an app on their phone, and it might even be in partnership with the local bank. But the services that it's going to provide, because a lot of these people, it's not about making investments. Step one is having a place to receive income, store value, and make payments. And what's interesting is everyone talks about remittances. Well, a large percentage of the remittance dollars are sent by the underbanked, people that don't have good access to financial services. And therefore, there's very extractive layers to send money traditionally for the working class, the migrant workers. And therefore, that's all been solved now. We have the technology to solve that. Now, navigating the regulation, ensuring the ease of use is there. That's what WeFi is for. And so so you're asking, what does it look like for someone in Latin America that wants to send money? It's an app on their phone. It's what's similar. They can do it now with a lot of different types of products, but we're building the entire stack to make it very efficient, very user-friendly, and open them up to a wide variety of high-quality financial services.
Banks and legacy payment rails have had decades to solve cross-border payments and financial inclusion. What specific structural reason do you think has stopped them? And why does blockchain actually solve it rather than just repackage that kind of same problem?
Oh, it's a great question, but the structural reasons start on the top. One, regulation. Every country has different regulations, and that really slows innovation down. And so just the technology stack that they're working on is antiquated. So we can start there. And even if they want to upgrade a lot of things, regulations slow down that upgrade. And until the advent of blockchain, there was no real upgrade. There was no real simple solution that they could easily plug in. And even with the advent of blockchain, it's taken over a decade for us to get here because regulation had to catch up. And now kind of global regulation has really seen that we do have the ability to move money globally instantly and for free. So why aren't we doing it? And in the beginning, they tried to kill it. And now, since it's provided so much utility, they're leaning into it. When I say they, governments, and now the fact that governments are regulating it, large institutions are leaning into it because they want to provide a better service. It makes their inner workings, their infrastructure much more efficient. And when you make it more efficient, you can reduce the fees because you reduce the overhead. It all compresses. And then if you start from scratch, like what WeFi is doing, you can take all of those savings and redistribute it to the users of the community. And that's really the promise of Web3, is redistributing the value that's put into the network to the users of that network. And in the past, even if companies like even these large banks or like everyone uses Facebook as an example, if they wanted to pay everyone for a like, they couldn't really do it. They didn't have the technology and the business model isn't there. But when it's built from scratch, they don't have those legacy issues. And so now when you can just build some technology that is based on the blockchain, so you know that the transactions actually occur and it doesn't require all the overhead to ensure that, you can program where all the rewards, the yield, the fees go, and they go to the community. That's the promise of Web3, and that's what I'm working very hard on delivering.
So this push of regulation, like the Genius Act, does that clarity just help, or does it add any friction as well? And how are you kind of positioning with that shift?
Ideally, it really helps, but regulation always does add friction, and it's not always a bad thing. But right now, the Genius Act and the Clarity Act, there's still a lot of debate about exactly how clarity is going to unfold. However, it has taken a big step in the right direction where they've agreed to share some yield. Now, there's some hoops that have to be jumped through in order to do that, but it's a big win for the consumer. And it's a big win for these new crypto companies, these new companies based on blockchain that have the ability to offer that yield to consumers. Because the only reason why it wasn't was because people were afraid of deposit flight. Like people wouldn't deposit from the traditional banks. So the incumbents were trying to protect their business, even though a new better, more robust product offering is here. So we're slowly moving in the right direction. So I think it's great because it allows the traditional banks and financial institutions a pathway on to blockchain-based technology, which will upgrade their infrastructure.
WeFi has given users, and you're pursuing financial licenses kind of jurisdiction by jurisdiction. How do you balance the speed of crypto innovation with the reality of regulatory timelines?
The speed of innovation is always much, much farther ahead than the regulatory landscape allows. But that's where the innovators innovate. And an example I use a lot is Uber. Uber was not really legal in many places at all. And they had to fight state by state, country by country, and they had to battle the laws and get the laws changed. But why? Because that innovation was so powerful. Everyone can relate to that. They're like, Uber's amazing. And therefore, when the people demand it, the laws had to change. That is exactly what's happened with crypto. It's just taken a long time because it's money. So it's so highly regulated, but we're getting there. The people are demanding it. You can send money globally in 3 seconds. Why don't the traditional banks allow you to do that? They're about to soon.
And in 5 years, what does a WeFi user's financial life look like compared to today, if you could say?
Sure. The whole concept is to have a robust community where the ability to transact globally, instantly, and for free is at your fingertips. You store money, you save money, you receive money, you send money. And more importantly, at that point in time, you have very high quality, very safe investments available to you for pennies or dollars, which is really important for a large percentage of the world. But in a few years, most all traditional assets will be tokenized in some form, like investable assets are tokenized, offering a lot more ways for people to invest in them and creating a lot new types of investment products. And once they're tokenized and you can invest $1 into something that's really high quality and provide that access to everyone in the world, people's financial lives improve because the internet plugged the whole world into global information. Let's call it education. But it missed one thing. It didn't plug you into global business. It was still very hard to transact globally. Now the blockchain plugs in the financial side. So now when you have all of the world's knowledge at your fingertips and the ability to interact financially with anyone in the world at your fingertips, who knows what's going to happen? But ideally, it lifts everybody up a little bit.
And you've built companies that created entirely new categories. I know you're already working on a lot already, but where do you think the next kind of blank space on the map is in financial infrastructure? And is that something you're already looking towards?
Absolutely. And it's a great question because where I see the future going for financial infrastructure, over this last decade, a stack has emerged. And I've focused on companies and built companies in each layer of that stack. Like in the infrastructure layer with BlockV, which is now Dual, and Smart Media, it's really what RWAs are. They used to be called NFTs, and now they're RWAs. So the ability to tokenize all sorts of assets. And then tokenizing the dollar itself, digitizing the dollar and putting it on chain. And now upgrading the way those assets are distributed and shared and then interacted with through WeFi. So that whole stack is going to become a utility. It's going to become basic infrastructure. And so what that means is companies are going to be able to provide financial infrastructure like banking as a service to the large ecosystems out there. Because at the end of the day, when the ability to transact financially globally, when that becomes a utility and a commodity, and even the regulatory stack is there, the only thing that matters, and this is important, is the distribution. Where are the people? Because you're not going to care which service you use because you just want to transact, and your AI agents are going to do the transacting for you. So what you're going to care about is your community. Who are you loyal to? Do you love a soccer team and do you want all your financial transactions and everything you do like to get you loyalty and rewards for that team or some sort of benefit? So in the future, the big space is distribution. Where are the people aggregating? Those people are going to plug in a full suite of financial services and then provide all sorts of services to them. So community is going to matter the most in the future.
How far away do you feel like we are from kind of tokenization kind of being just another thing until it's like
Well,
fully implemented?
it's going to take a while, mainly because of regulation. And also different assets are going to be tokenized first. Right now, like tons of treasuries and money market funds are tokenized. And those assets are going to be used as collateral for stablecoins. And then more assets that will create new and novel investments. And so it's coming quickly, and AI is going to change the game for everything. But still, it will take a couple years for the large institutions to fully transition, and for these large ecosystems that have all the people that interact to really upgrade to be able to provide all those services. But everyone in the crypto space is working really diligently to make it happen.
And when you say AI is going to come in and change everything, it kind of already has, hasn't it? And how do you feel it's kind of affected you over the past 5 years, and kind of where can you see it going in the future? I know it's a huge question.
Yeah, and it's not really even the last 5 years. Let's look at the last 12 months is really when it's going to hit mainstream and just smacked people right in the face. They're like, I don't know. Even my mother, who's, she's like, she didn't know anything about AI, but then a few months ago, I downloaded chat. My mom uses it all the time, right? So it's one technology that has already quickly become ubiquitous, and we're just in the early stages. But for your financial future and for blockchain and stablecoins, it's extremely important. AI is going to be the interface that people use to utilize blockchain-based technologies, because it's complicated, wallets and passwords and the different currencies. But soon you'll just talk into your wallet and tell it how you want to transact, and it will execute it for you. Therefore, the brands disappear, and all that matters is the quality of a product and whichever transaction is most profitable or rewarding for you, because your AI is going to route it through that path.
Perfect. And is there any final points that you'd like to say before we finish?
There's so much, I guess, concern around AI, and rightfully so. But we just have to sit here with a lot of optimism, because it's a whole lot better than being pessimistic, right? And I do believe AI is going to bring about some unbelievable changes to this world, and I really hope for the best. And we're trying to build technologies that AI can utilize to really deliver kind of prosperity to everybody around the world. So I am optimistic for our future.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time again. And yeah, it's been a great conversation.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.